Hi, I'm Lillian Gray, South African fine artist, and this is my art assistant, Gody. And today we are going to be covering the basics of working with air dry clay. So in this video, we will be covering how to roll a proper slab, how do you wedge your clay, how do you join different sections, what is slip, how to finish off a clay artwork properly, and just all the characteristics of air dry clay so that it doesn't crack and dry out. So stay tuned for how to store your clay, which is a very important step so we don't have a lot of tears at the end of the stunning project. Gody is now going to show us how to wedge the clay. This step is super important to get your clay malleable and to get rid of all the air bubbles inside. Clay, you can use a sharp pointy edge to get a proper square slab. When using shapes and forms, it's very important to cover them with a soft paper. Paper towels work really well. The reason is that clay shrinks and it needs a bit of movement, and the paper towel just allows the clay to shrink a little bit while it's drying. So just gently press, not too hard, to get it shaped over the form. Okay, I've decided to make an African mask for this exercise. So I'm still going to use my little pen just to cut, and I'm going to now figure out the shape for my beautiful African mask. Now, to round off your clay, it's very important to not have such jagged edges. So you want to get a sponge, and I'm just using a basic kitchen sponge, and wet it, but then really get all the water out. You don't want this to become a mud bath. You really just want to take your water and now finish off these edges and make sure everything is exactly the way you want it. A super important part of working with clay is to make proper slip. Slip is a really soft clay that you just mix with water, and you don't want to add too much water because that's just going to be one mushy mess. It actually should be like the texture of toothpaste, so that's quite important. You cannot do clay without slip. Things will crack, fall apart, okay? Slip is like the glue of clay, so it's very important to make proper slip. Now I'm going to show you how to use your slip when you are joining certain things. I've made an additional nose for my mask. If I'd like to adhere this nose onto my mask, it is super important that you scratch. You then take your slip, which remember is your glue, You're going to add your slip, then also scrape the other side and then join it and work it in with your fingers.
Okay, I take my stick and scratch here, and then I add my slip. I scratch at the back of it and then I stick it. I press it down nicely, softly, easily. Then I go for my second one, which is the bottom one. I scratch again, and then I also scratch the back of it. Then I stick. I push it softly, easy again. And then now I got my African face.
Alright, so we're now going to show you guys how to actually decorate this mask and make it really pretty. So the first thing Gody is going to do is to show you this trick with a fork. All discarded crayons work really well. These are those twisties that we all used to use at school. And I am going to use the front of this to make lovely facial tattoos and add some patterns to our African mask. I also just want to show you, you can use the back of your fork, which also makes interesting patterns. You guys can go and find buttons or interesting beads that you can roll over the clay to make some interesting textures. Cody's also going to show you one of our favorite tricks on how to make hair or shrubbery out of clay, where we push the clay through a sieve. Once it protrudes, you get these fine strands. Remember, when you are going to be joining this and placing this on your mask or any other clay surface, you need to use slip to join these. I'm going to remove it using my little pin, and I will be placing that on my mask. Okay, Gody and I are done now with our mask. What's super important is to really let your clay dry slowly. So remember, you're working with air dry clay, which means you need to finish your project in one go. And number two, it's got to really dry slowly. So to do that, you want to store it in airtight plastic in a really dark cupboard. So what Gody and I are going to do is we've placed it on a board so it's nice and hard, and we are going to cover it in plastic so no air can get in. Okay, so we'll be storing this away. Two very important steps. After day one, you need to take it off the hard mold that you've used, if you've used a shape. Because by that time, some of the moisture in the clay will already be out and it can start cracking if you leave it on a harsh shape. So by that time, I'm going to take away that green shape that we've used. And then day 2 and 3, and by day 3 or 4, hey goats, I'd say we take the plastic off.
Yes.
And let it dry completely. I'd say we take about a week before we actually paint on top of the clay. Anything else you want to add, Gody?
No, you decide whether you want to paint or you want to polish it with a shoe polish, and then it will be looking nice.
Yes, there are various finishing options. So Gody and I will show you that in our next video. So please remember to subscribe and stay tuned for our next video. This was Working with Air Dry Clay with my wonderful assistant Gody and myself, Lillian Gray, South African fine artist.